Get him again!
I'm so scared right now.
I am Raziel.
What's up guys, Raziel here, and for this video I have one question for you. A question I'm sure you've been asking yourself if you felt the need to click on this video in the first place. That is, have you always wanted to try tanking in Final Fantasy XIV or shit, in any MMO for that matter, but when you think of doing it, you get this overwhelming sense of anxiety and self-doubt? I mean, your heart rate starts to increase, your hands start to sweat, and your moist, fat sausage fingers don't seem to find your hotkeys like they do when you play your other jobs, your classes. Well, don't worry. As a player that has mained a tank in every MMO for the past decade, Raziel is here to help you overcome this tankxiety. That's right, tankxiety. No, not that Raz. He's too busy bearing a goddamn bone to help. God damn it, dog. This Raziel right here. And sorry, not sorry, Raz is gonna lay down some tough love. So, if you are a unique special snowflake, prepare to melt if you hang around. You've been warned. You're gonna get some tough love from Raziel today. Are you ready for my first piece of advice? Okay, it's very important, so listen closely. Here it is. And I mean this with all the love in the world. Stop being a pussy. Stop being a fucking pussy. I'm not joking here. Ask yourself one question, and be honest. What is the absolute worst thing that can happen to you if you give it a shot? I'll tell you. You die. That's it. Well, maybe some random guy on the internet that you don't even know and will never see again will give you a bit of shit about it, but really, that's it. And good news, guys. This is a video game. If you die, get this. You respawn and get to try again. I'm not kidding. I've done this many times myself in numerous amounts of games. No joke. You fucking respawn, man. You come back. Your character isn't deleted, you know. You don't get a big fucking bulking envelope full of anthrax in the mail for letting your group down. Not only that, but in Final Fantasy XIV, you're literally playing an MMO with the most helpful and friendly community in existence. So chances are, if you fail at tanking from the get-go, people are going to start helping you by giving you advice and tips. Look, I know tankxiety is a real thing, and I understand it. I've experienced myself. I mean, in MMOs, traditionally, the tank has the most pressure on them. Not necessarily because their mechanics are harder to deal with than, say, a DPS or a healer, but because tanks are front-loaded with setting the pace in the dungeons, doing pull timers, generally being a leader, and if the tank dies, generally the group goes with it. If a DPS dies for being bad, he catches a little shit, but then gets rezzed. And a player with low DPS can be carried by a DPS that's excelling and, is playing way above average. That's not the case with tanks. There are two healers. If one goes down, sure, until he gets back up, the fight is definitely more stressful for everyone involved, especially the healer that's still alive. And everyone has to play better to stay alive. But if a tank goes down, in a lot of ways you're fucked, i.e. if the main tank dies, there's always a brief window where the boss could potentially aggro someone other than the off tank. What if the off tank's provoke is on CD, because of a recent tank swap before the death? What if a big tank buster is coming in that the OT can't handle because he has no CDs because the tank switches happen? A lot of different scenarios where if a tank dies, you're fucked. A tank not managing his CDs effectively is going to overstress the healers, etc. You guys get my point. And let's also not forget that in MMOs, party wipes are generally always blamed on the tank or the healer. That's just common practice. I don't think that's going to change much. However, that does happen less in Final Fantasy XIV than other MMOs from my own personal experience. But I digress. All these factors are what make tanking so stressful and anxiety-ridden for new players that are trying out tanking for the first time. But review my previous advice. Just stop being a pussy. Look, this is a video game. Video games are meant to be fun. MMOs are about personal progression and getting better at the game. You think I was the tanking god? Reality, I'm pretty good, but I'm not a god. That I am today, right out of the gate? Of course not. Like every other good tank in this game, I mean, I was fucking trash. Like, really fucking trash, man. I mean, sure, I understood the basics of tanking, you know, from having tanked in World of Warcraft and other games for years, but I didn't know the boss fights. I didn't know my rotation. I didn't know what mechanics applied to me. I didn't know what CDs were best to pop when. And you know what? Neither will you, but that's okay. So, what are the steps you need to take to stop being a pussy? Well, I'm going to help you out. Here they are. If you really have an interest in tanking, but have anxiety about it, here is the course of action you need to take. Research which tank looks the funnest to you and appeals to your playstyle. There are plenty of videos on YouTube and threads on forums or Reddit or on Discord channels that can help you decide this. Pick a tank and then do the next thing. And this is going to be big. It's going to blow your fucking mind, right? Start tanking. Trial by fucking fire, baby. Do dungeons, normal mode raids, 24-man, squadron missions as you tanking, deep dungeon, heaven on high, etc. to practice. If you die, you die. Who gives a fuck? Stand back up and try again. I mean, that's how we get good at anything, right? That's the only way to become better. If you have never played a tank class before, please, for the love of God, don't buy a level up potion. The best way to learn the job and tanking in general is to start at level 1 and work your way up, where you slowly get your abilities and you slowly learn and set the hotkeys to where you want them. You're only going to increase your anxiety and make things harder for yourself if you've never tanked and you start at level 60 on a job you've never even touched before. Don't be afraid. On this next point, don't be afraid to go to YouTube not only to pick your class, but to please, once you start entering harder content, watch guides, learn the fights. If you learn better by doing, at least brush up with the guide and before you step in, you know, get your feet under you first. And finally, don't forget to tap into the greatest resource that you have in Final Fantasy XIV, the community. I mean, you want to be a tanking deity, look at other tank players in the game and ask them questions. You know, you're playing an MMO with the best community in existence. If you don't understand something, need help with your rotation, best in slot gearing, etc., just ask someone. I've been asked many times when I'm just standing AFK, you know, when they see my gear and stuff, they ask, you know, start asking me questions about Dark Knight, and I'm happy to answer them. You'll find that most people are more than happy to help. I mean, I even took time out of one of my own streams to show people the Dark Knight rotation because someone in my stream chat just asked and was asking for advice. People are really helpful in this game. I mean, I did that and I'm a complete dickhead. So, yeah, just use this huge, generous resource that's at your disposal, which isn't common in MMOs these days, you know, with the internet and all its snowflakes and all its anonymity. So, take advantage of it. And I'm going to point to this again because it's really important. When doing harder content as a tank for the first time, i.e. extreme, savage modes, ask questions and tell people, don't be afraid to tell people you're new to tanking or to the fight, or if both is the case. Let them know. Most people will then temper their patience and may even offer to help guide you, you know, to help you be successful. Now, if you follow these tips and just go out there and above all, enjoy yourself, don't pressure yourself so much to be so good right out of the gate because you may be a god or whatever on your DPS job or your healing job, but actually put in the effort to do your research, ask the community, do your best to become a good tank, and actually practice tanking. You'll overcome your tank anxiety and you'll stop being a pussy in no time. And again, never forget, this is a video game. The anxiety you felt before tanking was retarded because there's nothing to be anxious about in the first place. Everyone was trash at their class or role when they first started, DPS, healer, or tank. But staying afraid and letting fear of scrutiny from strangers on the internet and dying to a digital boss is ridiculous. Not doing something that interests you will always stop you from fully enjoying the game. Or shit, this applies to life in general. And it always comes laden with regret later on. Trust me on that. If you didn't try something that you really wanted to because you were too afraid to. And in an MMO, progression as a player always requires shitloads of failure at first. And the consequences of failure in a video game are not a big deal. But the payoff you get when you're successful and you finally achieve what you want and become good at something almost never ends. That refreshing feeling. You get back up and you try again and you get better. So stop being a pussy and get out there and get tanking if it's something you've always wanted to do but haven't done out of fear. Anyway, guys, what did you think of the video? I'm really interested to hear your comments down below. Thank you so much for watching and for the tremendous support. We're almost at 3K subscribers. I really, really, really appreciate the support. I know my content is coming slowly right now because Shadowbringers isn't out yet. But once it comes out, which is, we are what 7 weeks away from the early access, it's coming fast. It's going to pick up much, much more. I'm going to have more guides and other things. And as you can see on the screen now, follow me on Twitch and Twitter. I really don't use Twitter that much because fuck that shit. But I am quite active on Twitch right now, 2 to 3 days a week. But will go up, to 4 once Shadowbringers is out, if I can manage it. So feel free to drop by my stream, and keep in mind that between now and Shadowbringers launch, I will be giving away a copy of the Stormbringer. What the fuck? God damn it! I need to quit drinking. Of Shadowbringers, I will be releasing it, and when it be fucking, I should just quit while I'm ahead. I really should just quit while I'm ahead. I'm giving away a copy of Shadowbringers on my stream. You only have to watch. You don't have to sub. You don't have to fucking follow, but that helps. But yeah, you can possibly win a copy of Shadowbringers on the platform of your choice. Woo! I got through that. Okay. Anyway, guys, this has been Raziel. Thank you so much for the support, and as always, keep it real.